pain? What do you do when you've been criticized? What do you do when you've been bullied? What do you do when all sorts of stuff is happening in your life causing you embarrassment? Ooh, how do you handle that? Well, listen, welcome to Monday Morning Get Up. I'm your man, Robert Kennedy III, RK3. That's me, and welcome to another episode of the show. We do this every Monday morning from 10 a.m. to 10:15 Eastern Standard Time, or daylight time, whatever the time is on the East Coast of the United States. That's what time we do this thing. All right. So glad to see you all this morning. Hey, good morning, Carol Blair. Hey, good morning, David Kyle. Just Pictures. What's happening? Let me see who else. E.T. Stoddard. What's up? Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Every Monday morning we do this because the goal is to really help people start their day off right and help them move into their week with just this energy and inspiration, right? Because when we're inspired, we have this energy and we're able to do more. We're able to make better decisions. We're able to be a blessing to others, right? And that's what we want to do. That's the reason why we're here. A lot of people ask me the question about how do I find my purpose, right? How do I find my purpose? And the implication there is that we all have a different purpose. Well, here's what I've come to believe. We all have the same purpose. How we execute or how we live out that purpose is different, but we all have the same purpose. And the purpose that we all have is to transform the life of somebody else, right? Our purpose is to use our gifts, our abilities, our skills, our resources, and transform the life of somebody else with those gifts, skills, and resources. That's why we're here. That's why we're here, which gets to what we're talking about this morning. So let's start with a story. A gentleman by the name of Nick Vujicic. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Nick is a speaker. He's a painter. He is a surfer. He is an evangelist. He does a lot of things that, you know, maybe some of us do these things, but maybe some of us don't do these things. Here's what's interesting about Nick. Right? I'm going to put his picture on the screen. If you've never heard of Nick, Nick is a speaker and he was born with this rare congenital disorder, right? That caused him to not have arms or legs. So you can imagine, especially as a young child going to school, being made by his parents to go to school, you can imagine him probably wanting to stay home. Mommy and daddy, why can't you homeschool me? Why can't I learn at home? They wanted him to go to school and be social and have friends and have a life like other kids his age. So he goes to school, and you can imagine at school that he gets bullied. Kids start out maybe innocently enough by asking him, how come you don't have any arms? How come you don't have any legs? How come you don't look like me, Nick? And he didn't really have an answer for that. So after a while, he ended up just not answering, and he began to be bullied, and he struggled emotionally, mentally, physically. Hey, Sharon Moore Jackson, how you doing this morning? Right. So at the age of just 10 years old, Nick Vujicic attempted suicide. Oh my, what could happen in a 10-year-old's life that would cause them to attempt this? But here's what's happening these days. If you have kids in school, if you have anyone that is at a certain age and they're getting bullied, and maybe it's not even a young age, maybe it's even an older age, when people are getting bullied, when they're getting bullied for things that they have no control over, they tend to take in those things and internalize them. And maybe some people become depressed, or, you know, they begin to feel isolated, like they are the only one in the world going through that thing. But here's the thing. There's nothing in your life that you could go through that you are the only one who would ever have experienced that. The only person who can say that is the first person who ever lived. Right? The only person who can say that they've experienced something that no one else in their life has experienced is the first person who ever lived. All of the rest of us go through stuff that other people have gone through or are going through. And here's what happens with us. As we're going through these things, we feel like We're the only ones. And so we hide them because we don't want to be embarrassed, because we don't want to be bullied, because we don't want to be criticized for going through those things or experiencing those things. So let's jump in with this morning's quote. Here's this morning's quote. It's by Kim McManus. And it says, "Your heartache is someone else's hope. If you make it through, someone else can make it through. Tell your story." Your heartache is someone else's hope. If you can make it through, someone else can make it through, right? Tell your story. Here's what you do with the pain. Here's what you do with the criticism and the embarrassment. Here's what you do with those experiences. You share them, you tell them, you talk about them, because somebody else, if you are 10 years old, 15 years old, 20, 40, 50, whatever it is, there's somebody else that's behind you that maybe has not had the opportunity to experience that thing just yet. Or maybe they have not gotten to the point where they've learned how to deal with that thing just yet. And so they see you and they're looking at you, and they may not say anything to you. You may not even know that they're there, but they're watching you because they're watching to see how you navigate the hurt. They're watching to see how you navigate the pain, and they may say something to you later on. They may say thank you, or they may not. They may not. So I can imagine Nick Vujicic, he's going through all of this bullying and all of this crazy in his class. His classmates are bullying him. And I know that if there were 10 people in the classroom, he was not the only one that was bullied, or he was not the only one that may have been different. If you've seen classrooms at any point in your life, if you've seen communities or environments, always there is someone who is in the back, or it just kind of on the side, a little bit quieter than the rest, and they observe. They're observing. And maybe that person was you. I know in my space, quite often it was me. And they're observing because there's an insecurity that they're dealing with. There's self-image. There's something that they're dealing with that they don't want to reveal to everybody else. They don't want to open themselves up for criticism. They don't want to be vulnerable because they can possibly be hurt. And here's the thing. There is no one in the history of humanity, including the first person that ever lived, that has never been hurt. So when you get hurt, when you deal with hurt, when you're born with hurt, when hurt develops in your life, somebody is always looking to see how you manage that hurt, how you navigate that hurt, how you walk through that hurt. And so when you keep the stuff, when you keep the story inside of you, when you hold it, when you never share it, what happens is somebody else does not get the advantage, does not get the privilege, does not get the blessing, does not get the benefit of being able to use your story as their roadmap, as their tool, as their piece of equipment to make it through the mess that they're in. Right? So you think that you have a mess. You think that your life has been this thing. And maybe for some of us, I talk about Nick Vujicic and how he was born without arms or legs. And some of us say that, you know what, the reason that I don't tell my story is because I don't have this dramatic story to tell. I was born with all my arms and legs. I wasn't born into poverty. I wasn't born, I didn't have this drastic car accident. I didn't have all these crazy things that happen in my life. I'm this normal, regular, middle-class person whose life has been fairly comfortable. And so what story do I have to tell? Well, all of us have some story to tell. Maybe it was the time that you had to study a little bit harder for a test. Maybe it was the time that you discovered how to ride your bike without being taught. Maybe it was the time that you were doing something and you fell and you hurt your knee and you skinned your knee and you had to get up and try that thing again. Maybe it was the time that you were expected to complete a project or do something on your own and nobody taught you how to do it. You had to figure it out on your own. All of these are stories. All of these are experiences that you've been through, that I've been through. And when we keep those stories inside, again, what we're essentially doing is robbing somebody else of the tools that they need to be able to make it through their story. So I'm going to go back to Kim McManus's quote here. Your heartache, your pain, your stuff, your heartache is someone else's hope. If you make it through, someone else can make it through. And when we talk about making it through, we're talking about making it through anything. We're not only talking about the big dramatic stuff. There's small stuff. There's small stuff that people, that if you think about your own life, there are times in your life where there was something that you didn't know. There was something that you didn't understand. How did you get through it? Well, you went to the library, or you asked somebody, or maybe you just observed somebody. Or these days, maybe you just went to YouTube, right? And I hope you're watching this on YouTube, by the way. Oh, yeah. All right. So maybe there's something that happened in your space. Maybe there's something that happened in your space that you just have not shared because you have felt insecure about it. Well, I'm here to tell you that, again, you are not the only one that's experienced that thing. That thing has not happened only to you. As a matter of fact, most chances are that the people who will make fun of you about that, the people who will bully you about that, the people who will criticize you about that are people who have experienced or hurt or are hiding something themselves. I forget who says this, but they said that you will never be criticized by somebody who's ahead of you. Right? If you think about it, there is if you're running a race and the racer, the more experienced person, they're better than you. They've had more success than you. You know, they're not going to criticize you. Yeah, there's some arrogant people who will make fun of you, but you will not be criticized by those who have already conquered the thing that you were trying to conquer. The people that usually do the criticizing, especially online these days, are the people who have some gap or some obstacle or some hurt or something that they haven't been able to conquer themselves. So tell your story. There's nothing embarrassing about your story. Yes, you might feel embarrassed for a moment. Embarrassment is a real feeling. It's a real emotion. It's an emotion. It's something that people go through. However, you'll find that when you tell that story, that embarrassment begins to fade and dissipate. The hurt begins to fade. The criticism begins to die down, because even if there are 10 people in a room, telling your story provides hope for at least one person. One person who's been watching you, one person who's been looking at you, one person who's been seeing or observing how you are going to make it through that specific thing. And sometimes they'll tell you years later, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you shared that story because it really helped me. And sometimes they won't. But know this, that your purpose is to use your gifts, your skills, your abilities, and your story to transform the life of somebody else. Listen, y'all, this has been Monday Morning Get Up and Go. I really hope that you've taken what I've said this morning, that you've taken it in, and that you'll go into this week with boldness, that you'll go into this week inspired, ready to take your experiences, ready to take your stuff and share them with somebody so that they can have hope, so that they can make it through, so that they also can have a story that they will share with somebody else to fulfill their purpose. All right. Listen, y'all, I'll see you again next week, Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget, if you need to get notified when this show goes live or anytime that I'm live, text me 410-936-4049. You can watch this on YouTube. Just search RK3TV on YouTube and we'll watch this stuff. We'll watch this every week. All right. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again on Monday morning Next week, the 27th, for Monday morning. Get up and go. All right. Hey, Sharon Moore Jackson. What's happening, Anthony Montague, Antoine Speller? How you doing this morning? Hey, David Kyle, good to see you. Blind Eyes Seeing, good to see you. Shalini Punjabi, hey, how you doing? Sierra, how you doing this morning? Kim Donget, hey, how you doing this morning? All right, y'all. Listen, we're gonna make this thing go. I'll see you soon.